Okay guys, I'm back at you. So it's been about a month and a half, and a little bit of an adventure, as you noted, or as I mentioned before. The original engine, which I was really hoping I could keep, was shot. The head was cracked. On the block itself, the cylinders were already bored too far over, so they couldn't even be bored over any further, and sleeving them doesn't make any sense. So I went out, found another motor, tore that one down, took it in, crossed my fingers, and the machine shop called me back, said it's good to go. So we got her. Here it is. There is the machined motor block, all ready to go back together. And the old one's there. Try to figure something out with it. I'm not sure yet. Got the head, and they milled the head down as far as possible so I could get a little bit more compression, maybe a little bit more horsepower. Both cams actually are good. They're in almost perfect condition, so they didn't even recommend to grind the cams down at all, so I'll just reuse them. I'll clean them up and reuse them. We've got pistons, brand new pistons, beautiful pistons, 60 over, so pretty excited about that. They've already installed the rods, brand new rods, or no, rods are original. Yeah, we stuck with original rods, got new bearings and everything. That's the old crank there, and that was shot too because that had someone had welded in one of the journals. I haven't looked at, I forgot to ask him to show me that, but I'm going to look at it. And I forgot to take the good crank out of the plastic. I guess I don't need my knife. But here is the good crank that came out of the newer motor. Sorry about the camera work there. Nice and pretty. Good job on that. So, next step is I'm going to clean the motor up a little more, get some of the flash rust off of there. I'll mask it up, and then I'm going to paint it. Can't really do anything else, I don't think, until I get this thing painted and the paint's dry. And then I will be ready to start assembly, and I'll document all the assembly, because that's going to be the fun part. Nice and clean, no more grease and grime and sludge. And just to show you, if there's enough light here, there we go, maybe that works. That's the date that the motor was made. So it was made on October 22nd of 1952. So it's a newer motor than the old one, which, you know, that's okay. Kind of wish that I could have used the original motor here, just because it was the original one that came out of the truck. And I'm going to show it to you upside down, but the date on that one is February 5th of 1946. So even this motor that was in the truck originally, I don't believe was the original motor in that actual truck when it was made, because the truck is a 42, and I imagine they swapped the motor out at some point, so not the original motor, but still would have been kind of cool to have the original that I got, you know, from my father-in-law. So, and here's all the other stuff that I got painted up. Everything's all painted now. All the engine covers, intake and exhaust manifold. I painted up the bell housing, valve covers, the whoops, sorry about that. That's my compressor bleeding off. Painted up the air cleaner. So lots of nice painted up stuff ready to go. Everything's good. I just gotta paint the block and the head. Get rocking. I got 2 oil pans here. I'm gonna pick which one is the best and find out if they're different from one another. Because if I have to use the one that came on this particular motor, then that's fine. But I'll clean it up, take some of the dents out, get it ready. But next up is begin the assembly. I'm excited. Okay, we got 3 coats of primer and 3 coats of paint, so it's all painted up and ready to go. So I just finished the last coat of paint today, so I'm gonna let it cure for probably a day or 2 just to make sure the paint's nice and dry. There we go. Not the best masking tape. There we go. In front. Okay, now I might have a little bit of overspray because the tape came loose when I was doing the last coat. But no, doesn't look like it. Looks okay. Obviously, I'll clean it up regardless. But there it is. Nice painted engine. I'll get the masking off some of that part here in a minute, but nice pretty engine. A couple more days and I'll start putting her together. Alright, lapping in the valves. So this basically just kind of seats the valves to indexes the valves to the seats. Helps to make a really good, nice, tight seal. So I've done all of them except for this very last one so that I could videotape it. And so what you do is you take a little bit of valve lapping compound and just put a little bit on the face of the valve. Oop, a little bit much there. Drop the valve down in there. Then you have this little suction cup tool. This is how you hand lap anyway. There's machines that do this. Kind of get a good seal on it. And then you just spin it lightly with a little bit of down pressure. And you'll hear the tone of the grinding because that's abrasive. So you'll hear the particles break up and everything break down and start to get smoother. You can see how it gets real quiet when you pull it out. I'm going to clean it up. Get all the abrasive off of it. And what you're looking for is a nice gray line on it, which I may actually hit this one more time because that's pretty faint. So yeah, I think I'm going to hit that one more time. Get a little bit nicer of a solid gray line. Okay, a little wobbly on the camera there, sorry about that. Should have a better line now though. Yeah, so now you can, I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that on camera, but there's a nice gray solid line, so you can tell where it was touching in the valve seat here. This is abrasive, so you got to clean it up really good. So I'm going to do a real good cleanup later after I'm done here. Make sure there's no abrasive left. That can destroy an engine. Clean this up with a little bit of carburetor cleaner. Yeah, you can see the line pretty nicely now. Clean that up. Okay, that's lapping in the valves. I've got them all done now. That was the last one. I may need to look at that one more time. I may hit it one more time, we'll see. And then I mark all the valves. Partly what I'm doing here is putting the valve in. Get a nice tight seal. What I'll do is stick a flashlight in there and kind of cup my eye over it, see if I see any light coming through. I don't. I might do that at nighttime. It'd be easier. And I can do a leak test also after I get the valve springs and all that stuff installed. I'll put a little kerosene or something in each of these journals, turn the motor upside down, put a little kerosene in it, and see if it leaks out overnight. But now each valve has been ground to its respective seat, so I don't want to get them out of order now. So now they're all marked. So all those valves are marked. And the next step, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is camshaft. So I'll be putting the camshaft in. Here we are with the engine upside down. And I've got all the valve tappets in except for one. I'll just show you how I grease one or oil one up and put it in. But yeah, this is where the camshaft goes in. So the tappets go in first. Those tappets, those faces right there on the tappets, they ride on the camshaft lobes. So okay, so I'm going to set the camera up aimed right at that deal there. We use some assembly lube. And just get it all over the tappet real good. And then I'll drop it in. Nice and smooth. Okay, we're gonna get the camshaft ready. So this is assembly lube, and it's gonna be a tricky job, but I'm going to go ahead and start getting some of the lube put on here. Basically just going to lube up the entire camshaft. over here. I'm trying to keep one hand sort of dry. I can. There we go. Okay, I'll put a little bit more on a couple spots as we go in. Alright, we're going to put this in now, so as I go in, I'll be real careful. I don't want to slide or scrape any of these bearings. Go. And there it is. Okay. There it goes. Now it's all the way in. Get some of that lube on those bearings. Okay. Looking good. Camshaft is sitting in there now. Spins freely. Good. Next up will be springs, valves and springs. It's valve spring time. So I've got this tool and getting the springs in place first. This just kind of clamps the spring down. Enough for me to get it over the tap it. There we go. There. Okay, so that gets the spring in there. You see I've got a few in already. They're all loose because I haven't put the valves in yet. So then the next step is to put the valve in. So I'm going to show you on this particular, actually I think I'll go to number 1 over here. So we'll spin the camera right about there and hopefully I can get it done. So we've got the valve. I've put some assembly lube on the valve so that it slides down in there nice and smooth. Okay. Then we get the valve tool back on there again. We're going to compress the spring just enough, hold it in place, and hopefully you guys can see in here. We've got these keepers, these little locks, and they go in taper side up. Now, do my best to get the other side keeper on. This is actually a little easier if I lay the engine flat, which is my plan, but I'm still trying to get the rest of the springs in first. Okay, both keepers are on there, so now I just release the spring, and that goes over those little keepers, and they keep the valve in there. And then I probably can't turn this very easily by hand, but you can see the valves moving there without the springs. When I tap, it's moving without the valves in them. But there's number 1. That would be intake. And then there's exhaust. It's just hard to turn, so. But you can see how it goes up and works. So, done deal. I've got the new bearings for the crankshaft. All the bearings are in the journals, and I've lubed with assembly lube. Lubed them all up, so everything's all nice and oily. And now I'm going to lift the crankshaft into place. I've also lubed up all of the crankshaft spots that meet the bearings. Carefully drop that down in there. See if I'm getting in the right place. Yep. Nope, not quite in there. There we go. Now we're in. Get that oil kind of spread around. So far it's turning super nice and smooth. So there we go, crankshaft is there. Next step is to do the same thing with the caps. So I've got the crankshaft caps. This is number 1. There's a pin on it, so it goes this way. So I'll lube each one of these up. And this is not the final assembly, because I'm going to have to check the crankshaft for, I believe it's called throw out. I'll put a dial indicator on it, and I'll be able to tell how far the crankshaft, how much movement I have this direction with it. There's a specific amount that it's supposed to have. But I'll get these caps on, and I'll crank them all down probably right, oop, wait a minute, let's see. I got the wrong one now. Let me check. Yep, wrong one. There's a bigger one that goes on this outside. This one goes right here. So I'll crank them all down to spec, and then make sure the crank spins nice and smooth. And there's, I forget where it's at, I think this side, there's a seal. That's the rear main seal. Once the seal is in place, which I'll have to pull the crank back out and put the seal in before I do it final. When the seal's in there, it makes it a little bit more difficult to turn. It puts a little more drag on the crank. So you want to make sure that the drag on the crank is just right before you actually put a seal in, I believe. So I will get these cranked down. We'll see how it spins. I'll check the end play. I think that's it. Then I'll pull the caps back off, and then I put the all the seals and all that stuff together, and I'll put them all back down and crank them all good for a final time. So it's looking good so far. I got the crank in. It's all torqued down, and so now I'm going to go ahead and do the put all of the timing gear, gaskets, chain, gears, and all that stuff on. I need to clean a little bit of assembly lube off the face of this so the gasket will stick, and then I'll go ahead and get the gasket ready to go. Let's get the worst of it. Okay. Alright, so let's get the right fit. That goes that way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of this great stuff, or right stuff I should say, gasket sealer on. Just a really thin layer of it all the way around. Okay. Positioned. Got my rag. Good. Okay, next step. I'm going to do the face, outer face. Now this plate goes on, and there's dowel pins here that help to locate it and line it up. And get those lined up and in place. There we go. Okay. And a lot of these bolt holes go into the motor, so that's why I have to use thread sealant or Loctite to keep them from leaking oil. So now the timing gear. There's a couple things we got to do here. Timing gear and chain. First, I got to get the, I'm going to go ahead and put the timing gear on, and it only goes on a specific way. So they designed this so the holes only line up one way. So it's right there. Turn the camshaft right about there, I think is where I want to be. And I'm going to turn the crankshaft because I want to get those dots lined up. Right there is where we want to be. Leave that in there like that. Get this other one loosened up. Okay, get them lined up. Right about there. Now I can take the gear off so I can get the chain on it. Okay. Now the chain goes on. Pull that off. Chain on. Oops. We'll go right there. I've got one more tooth that's going to be too much, but let's give it a shot. Let's see. Nope. Right there, I believe, is where we gotta be. Yep, there we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna top these bolts back off with a little bit more thread lock. And then the marks are lined up. So I'll get those cranked down, and then the next step is, I believe,
the cover. I'll put this gasket on. It goes right there. And then after that gasket goes our cover, which goes just like that. And then there's the balancer. This is the balancer that goes on there, and then the pulley mounts to that